Santosh this side from Global Council for the Promotion of International Trade. We are the media partner for this Singapore Business Show.
Okay.
So we just wanted to have a short interview about these organizations and what is the thing that you are trying to achieve. So you can just introduce yourself and talk about more about the company, and then we'll have one or two questions for us.
Sure. Thank you. My name is Vikas, and I'm here to represent QUESS Corporation Singapore. So QUESS Singapore is actually part of a global organization called QUESS Corporation. So we are listed in Indian Stock Exchange, about $2.5 billion in annual sales. In Singapore, we are the dominant provider of technology talents. So our primary business model is we provide outsource or contract talents to our customers, as well as we have a recruitment arm, which is if a customer requires a talent on their payrolls, we are there to provide. Majority of our revenue comes from hiring people on our payrolls and then deploying them to our customer on a flexible staffing model. And I think what COVID actually taught organizations is that you need flexibility in the way you manage talents, right? Because there's so much of unpredictability in terms of where the revenue stream is coming. Just when the economies were talking about a revival, we are now talking about recessions now, right? So in that environment, how do you manage talents? Do you hire everybody on your payrolls and then figure out a strategy to painfully cut them off your payrolls, right? And that basically causes certain level of reputational damage. So I think that's where we are seeing our services are finding a little bit more relevance and resonance, right, to our customers.
So how do you think this the gig economy or the gig resources are going to play or disturb or take away some of your business line? Is that?
Yeah. So areas like, for example, website development, right? Areas like maybe a design, right? A designer or a graphic designer. All of these skill sets were considered a full-time profession about 5-6 years ago, right? Now you have people who have these kind of skill sets, but they don't want to work full-time for an employer, right? So they prefer to obviously work as per their own timetable, as per their own, flexibility. Yeah. And so yes, in many ways, a lot of the tasks which were initially outsourced to an organization like us, right, are no longer outsourced and no longer provided by a full-time talent, right? But actually organizations find it easier to go and talk to the gig talent. So in many ways, yes, it's very, very disruptive.
Yeah.
But I think to larger enterprises or if there is a mission critical application, I think that work would still be done by full-time guys.
In-house and either on a flexi staff or you say the outsourced staff.
Yes.
Yeah. So how do you think that this hybrid work culture is going to?
So look, this is the greatest problem of 21st century, right? When COVID started, everybody thought that everyone can work remotely, right? And we can get high level of productivity. And then as the time passed on, the productivity started going down because there is a fatigue. There is a sense of fatigue that's set in, right? In fact, a lot of the time when large organizations interviewed their employees, the employees said they love the flexibility of remote working, but the same employee says, we miss interacting with employees, right?
That is human.
So there is a dichotomy in what they want. Do they want face-to-face interaction, or do they want remote work? But I think as far as the future of work is concerned, remote work or hybrid work is here to stay, right? I think it might, couple of years from now, there may be very strict definitions of XYZ roles that can be purely done remotely, and those roles, right, will be done remotely. And then maybe at a mid-management and a senior leadership level where you do need people to come together for collaboration and ideation, I think those roles will become hybrid. So a certain portion of the work becoming on-site and certain portion of the work becoming remote.
Now you have used the word called future of work. So this is much interesting point. So how do you think the future of work and the future of education? So do you have any team where you do you train resources and then deploy?
Right.
So how do you think that the future of education is going to play a role?
Right.
Or
So
what is the future actually?
Right. So I like to call it this future of skill acquisition, right? Because if you leave it to educational institutes, right, to give you all the necessary skills, well, that hasn't happened as yet, right? And also the
way it is happening, the way the changes is happening.
Correct,
I think
correct. So they can never catch up, right? So it's really up to organizations to, have your own engine of skill acquisition, new skill acquisition, and prepare even the existing talents for the technology of future, right? So we do have a training arm where we collaborate with our customers and we put together a customized training program. So in that sense, the investment in upskilling, training, sourcing candidates, putting them through the training program, and eventually deploying them to our customer, where customer has an option of trying them for about 12 months, and after 12 months they can continue or they can actually absorb them. So this is what we call as hire, train, deploy solutions. Yeah. So we have obviously started that. In a place like Singapore, you have to, right? Because the talent pool is not increasing. In fact, everywhere, in India, though you have 10 million IT candidates, but there the problem is skill shortage. So not enough skilled people. Singapore has both skill as well as talent, because the number of number of talent itself is low. So I think everywhere, for recruitment organizations and staffing organizations to remain relevant, you need a combination of capability to find the right people and also develop the right people.
And then now, if you look into the 5 years down the line, what is going to change, and how are you going to cope that particular changes?
So 5 years down the line, I think demography will, and by demography I mean the sheer presence of workers available, all right? Because you have cases of advanced economies, Korea, Japan, Singapore, China, all of these, the number of workers are shrinking, right? There is a population shrinkage which is going on, which means
young blood is
right. No, so and all of these societies are actually aging societies. So you actually have now a situation in the world where you have more number of people in their 60s than you have more number of people in their 5s.
20 to 30.
So it's a reverse pyramid, right?
Reverse pyramid.
So what will happen is you will still have a lot of jobs chasing a lot of few people, right? So as a result, for the next 5 years, person who has the skill, right, will command premium. He is the boss or she is the boss. And the person who doesn't have the necessary skill, right, will find it very, very difficult. And that's this phenomenon of talent shortage that we keep hearing, right? That's not going away.
Okay.
It's actually going to get worse.
I was supposed to conclude. Now you have told one good thing about the male and female. So Singapore happens to be more on sustainability and sustainable development and all those things. Singapore promotes very heavily, right? So how do you think that diversity is going to play a role, or what kinds of culture or the practices that you adopt in terms of promote this diversity?
Right.
DIE, diversity, equity, and
right. So Singapore is, I think Singapore is already fairly diverse in terms of the participation rate for females, right? It's already, I think, about 68%, 69%. But when you look at emerging economies, India, for example, there the participation rate is terrible. It's just 24% for females, right? And so you cannot develop an advanced economy if you don't have female participation going up, right? So India would be a case where the female participation needs to go up. In markets like Singapore or a little bit more mature markets, the definition of diversity has to change from purely being females to maybe housewife, for example, or disabled people, right, handicapped, or people who are, let's say, working as armed forces or military professionals, right? So they had certain technical skills, but obviously don't have a corporate skill sets. If they happen to be someone who retired early, for example, they have the skill, but not necessarily the corporate skills to succeed. That segment, right, needs to come into the foray, and there needs to be a plan around how do you upskill them. So here the diversity would be more in terms of the different, societal stratas and structures that they come from, rather than purely male and female. But in India, of course, if you just stick to female itself, that's a huge boost you can give. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
All the best.